This is Bri Lee with Weazel News. In light of recent events between Weazel News and Junk Media, we had CEO Henry sit down with Dutch Van Horn to discuss the ongoing feud between both media teams. Let's go over to them now.
So this is Dutch Van Horn with Weazel News, coming to you from space, above all the petty bullshit. I'm here today with Henry Dresden, the CEO of Weazel News. Now, Henry, I gotta ask you. I gotta ask you, what is going on with Brandon Lee and his slanderous remarks?
I mean, that's a lot of stuff to unpack there, Dutch. Brandon Lee, always thought a great friend. Me and him built Weazel together from the ground up. And, as of late, he's just kind of gone on this weird tirade. And I don't know. I think he's just on some weird journey.
And so Brandon Lee accuses Weazel News of being a terrorist organization. Do you have any response to that messaging?
Well, Weazel News as a whole has never committed any terrorist acts. I must admit that we have had quite a few terrorists in our employ, but usually whenever they've gone off and done their incidences, let's say, Weazel News has been quick to respond, both by firing the individual who has committed this atrocity and seek to quell the minds of the public in our addresses. We've done it on multiple occasions. But Weazel News itself is not a terrorist organization. We're a news company.
And what are the action Weazel News is going to take against such slanderous behavior?
Well, Weazel News has already taken the opportunity to send them a cease and desist letter. Obviously they're spreading all of this misinformation, calling us a terrorist organization, trying to turn the public against us. I don't know why. They just have chosen to do that. So we have sent them a cease and desist, and we've hoped that that would be the end of it. But it would appear that Brandon is continuing to instigate us into full-on legal action against them. Brandon, I believe, was arrested and charged for poisoning multiple government officials and members of the public.
And now, if it was true that this was indeed intentional, would that be an act of terrorism?
If he was actively poisoning people, I would say that was an act of terrorism. Once proof was shown that he was actively doing that, he was fired from Weazel News, and that he is trying to project his own faults and mental issues onto Weazel as a simple way out of any accountability that it could be put onto him.
Mm-hmm. And so with these series of comas and stuff like that, we actually have footage of Brandon Lee inside Weazel News bawling his eyes out.
This is Brandon Lee from Weazel.
Mm-hmm.
Because he was so sad of being, having to leave. Do you have any comments on his mental state and why he was crying so hard about leaving Weazel?
Brandon has always been a crier,
And now, if you don't mind, I want to talk about the circumstances surrounding Brandon's arrest. Mm-hmm. I believe it was you and a Weazel team that was there when Brandon was arrested. Could you go into detail about that?
Yeah, so Brandon, I don't know if he was doing it to try and get caught, as like a cry for help. But he left a whole bunch of just random clues around the city, which Barry Moxley, the possible soon-to-be mayor, decoded and figured out, and then me and a smaller group of Weasels went to the location that was stated on the on all that information, found him there with Seth, the previous mayor.
Mm-hmm. And can you go into a little bit more details about the apprehension? What happened when the police interacted with Weazel, with Brandon? Did anything happen in that regard? Anything of importance?
So when we had arrested Brandon, he was crying and yelling about somebody was coming to get him and that they couldn't know where he was. And then out of the blue, a certain individual appeared and proceeded to tell us that he needed Brandon for something. He still needed Brandon for something. I don't know who it was, but with who this particular individual was, I could see it not being great. And then the cops showed up, and this gentleman opened fire on them with a LMG, and it turned into a full shootout.
A light machine gun.
Mm-hmm.
Do you believe that this individual who you witnessed inside this facility, if you will, has some sort of influence over Brandon even now?
I mean, in the time that me and Brandon have been working together in Weazel, he's had a lot of encounters with this particular person. And I would say that if it wasn't a monetary, control, it certainly is a physical, terror that is put on Brandon. So it could be that this person that we're talking about is kind of influencing his choices. But
all right, Henry. So I got another question about this so-called facility, if you will, that you guys were in.
Mm-hmm.
So reports indicate that this is a decommissioned nuclear missile silo,
mm-hmm.
and that there was an ICBM, right, with MIRV warheads inside the missile. Can you confirm this?
Well, Dutch, I was in there, but I am not a rocket scientist or an arms dealer. But what I can say is that silo definitely was not deactivated. Whatever was in there was a very large intercontinental ballistic something. Whatever Brandon was up to in that facility definitely was questionable at best.
Do you believe that Brandon was trying to activate the warhead in order to eliminate the people of Los Santos, or what do you believe on that?
Well, like I said, he was yelling and crying about some guy was coming to kill him. So it's possible that Brandon thought maybe, hey, this will definitely do it.
All right, well, you heard it here first, Los Santos. I've been Dutch Van Horn with an exclusive interview. Back to you at the studio.
Thank you, Dutch, for that amazing interview as always. This is Briley with Weazel News. Remember, Weazel is always watching.